same, just different people talking about different things. Okay, so go ahead with the next one. So we're going to talk a little bit about what stays the same for staff, CDC, and advisor. What's new for 1920 year end related to COVID, and then advisor regular new things. New for 2021 advisor, and then some final comments. So for 1920, what stays the same? Staff reporting and staff ID stays the same. Still staff reporting collection and the NDE staff ID collection in the NDE portal. Most of our CDC collections are going to stay the same. Advisor verification reports and lookups, still the same. Advisor person ID. Non-public reporting is still the same. So, you know, any non-publics that you're dealing with, it stays the same. The request to submit data late or make data changes in the CDC will still be available to submit. They do have to have extenuating circumstances, and at this time we don't really anticipate any. And then the 1920 FOB collection to finish up 19 fall follow-up collection. Finish it up. And then calendar, yep, go ahead and thank you. So this is the advisor calendar. So the first page is just all related to staff, second page is fall. And then our year-end, this is the page we need to be looking at on the calendar for what data we're looking to receive for year-end. Okay. So your staff reporting, the staff reporting manual guide is on our advisor resources page. Has its own little link on the left-hand side menu. And your 1920 staff verification reports and errors, as last year, as in previous years, is in NSSRS validation. So you want to make sure you check for any errors in the NSSRS validation collection. Current certificate report is there, your current personnel report, Title I paraprofessionals, teachers assigned out of endorsed area, staff reporting, NEP, staff reporting for GMS grants, sorry, and then NEP teacher demographics. These are all verification reports in NSSRS that you'll want to take a look at. Regarding teachers assigned out of endorsed areas, the new teacher cert program is still not connected. So you may see some teachers go up on there that say they're out of their endorsed areas. Did we have a screenshot in here or a link here somewhere for the teacher cert? Yes, right there. So the best way to determine whether or not that's a true teacher assigned out of endorsed area is to go here to this link and check to see if they actually have a certificate that's valid. CDC collections, the substitute teachers collection has been open all year. Again, the cert check is not connected to the new teaching certificate program. So you'll want to use that link to check it there. Now, one thing too that we wanted to mention is if your district submitted and approved that collection early in the year, you may want to go back and take a look at it, make sure that it's correct. We can make changes to it up until June 30th if it got submitted and approved too soon and some teachers didn't get reported. So you might want to double check it. The Human Resources Director contacts is open, due June 15th, audit window through the 30th. Days in session instructional program hours, you're looking at instructional program hours only. The NEP information, Nebraska Education Profile, NEP information collection, annual participation report, pupil transportation report, and your ESU district system school information report. Those are all open to June 15th. And then per that calendar we looked at, these are the submissions that are due for year end: student demographics, enrollments, including your graduates, attendance, discipline, courses, sections, teachers, student grades, final grades for 9 through 12, your program records for early childhood, homeless, Title I, Rule 18, food service, and special education. Go ahead and click on our list of verification reports. So this is a link, and there are other links to this verification reports too. These are the advisor verification reports in advisor validation that you need to look at now and verify that that data in there is correct. And that second to the last column is the reporting window that you'll want to use to look at these verification reports. So that reporting window, we have full year. So these are students that are enrolled in your district at any time during the year, even those who have left. As of today is as of today. So if students left before today, they won't be in that as of today reporting window. And then for fall, we had the October 1st students enrolled in membership or SPED programs. And then the next slide will show us there was an October 1st locked. So this was the data that we used to report and was according to, the state accountability data. Thank you, sorry. Right now there is an end of year reporting window available. And these are the students that are enrolled at the end of the school year. This is the data that will be locked on July 1st. And on July 1st, you will see an end of year locked data. And then we have our advisor validation lookups. And these are tools to assist you in your year-end reporting. The enrollment lookup by ID, that's going to give you a student's entire enrollment history in a Nebraska public school. Student lookup by ID will give you all of the records that have been submitted to advisor validation for a student at your school in the current year or the year selected. There's student lookup by demographics, special education lookup, and then the program lookups for career ed, early childhood, homeless, Rule 18. And then as a reminder, advisor person ID is where advisor validation, where it gets the student's name and birth date. So what's in your student information system for a student's name and birth date is not what's going to publish to advisor validation. It's what's in advisor person ID. So if there's something that doesn't look right on a birth date or a student's name, it's probably needing to be corrected in the advisor person ID collection. And I think Naomi's going to take over from here.
Yeah, so there's a, whoa. Denise, do you mind muting? There we go. So there's a couple different things about 1920. We'll talk about changes and updates that are very specific to coronavirus. And then we'll also talk about things that are just general sort of 1920 updates that we would have discussed at the Workday regardless of the epidemic. And really quick, just a side note, if any of you have questions, please send a chat. We have a couple people monitoring those so we can kind of talk through them if we need to. So regarding COVID-specific changes to 1920 year-end data, we do have a link to the coronavirus resources page that NDE communications team has put in. There's a section frequently asked questions, and this is really, really valuable. If you scroll down, there's a data research and evaluation section. This is very specific to your data reporting. So if you have any questions that may not be answered, look here, utilize this page. It's got some really good information in there. And the presentation will be available afterwards. So all of these links within the presentation, you'll be able to refer to after the fact. Okay, so for the CDC, Denise mentioned that the days in session instructional program hours collection still needs to be completed for public districts. The instructional program hours is it may or may not be below the required hours. And if your district is below, which it's anticipated that many will be, there's an affidavit process that you or your superintendent will complete in order to explain why your district is below program hours. So yeah, go ahead and click on that for me, Melissa, thank you. And this is a web form that they can complete, kind of explaining that. And then if you scroll down a little bit further, there's a little more information there. So this is a good reference for your superintendent, if need be. Okay. Is there something underneath the CDC if you go back a slide? Oh, yeah. Oh, the AQuest EBA. That was not collected this year. The principals, I'm sure, are all very excited. They didn't have to go into the portal and complete that, but that's a one-time deal because of the coronavirus. Okay, related to advisors specifically, there's a new data elements. One is called the crisis event, and the other is displaced student. The crisis event is a code that's unique to each event. We called this one COVID-19, and pretty much every kiddo in the state of Nebraska is going to have this indicator this school year. The displaced student data element is going to be for those kiddos who maybe were enrolled, but then had to move to a different district. Or let's say you had someone from New York move into Nebraska because they were displaced because of the epidemic. You would use that indicator for that particular student. And these elements can be seen in a verification report titled Student Crisis Events. And that's directly in Advisor. As for grades, final grades are still required for 9 through 12, and those grades can be anything, a letter, a number, a phrase, whatever the district determines that to be. And then summer school, again, same as usual, you'll report that information within the appropriate school year. So we do have the 1920 follow-up collection in the fall, and you can submit data then, or you can submit it now in the 1920 year end. So a couple of the attendance reports were adjusted based on coronavirus. So two of them, student attendance summary and the ADA-ADM. These were updated to only calculate attendance through the last day the kiddos were physically in the schools. That date is called your COVID closure date. So on that date, the superintendent submitted something back in March, what each district was going to be submitting for that. And that information is at the top of each of those reports. You'll see it highlighted yellow down in the screenshot there. There you go, perfect. And each district is different. If for some reason that date is not correct, you can send us a ticket, and with your superintendent's approval, we can adjust that as needed. But those reports are only going to calculate through that COVID closure date. And then some other things to keep in mind, kiddos who were enrolled after this closure date are not going to appear on these reports because the attendance wasn't taken. It's not going to be calculated. And then students who were already excluded from that report, maybe kiddos without instructional days in their calendar, or anyone whose days in session override field was set to 0. If a student does transfer to another district or out of state, you can use exit code 205 until you get that permanent request for records or formal request. And then this slide is a great reference tool for the future. It gives you the exact calculation for ADA and ADM. I think what's key to note is the bottom two bullets. Full-time kiddos enrolled all year should result in a 1, because that's 100 FTE. And then any kiddos enrolled just part of the year is going to be less than 1 because they weren't there the whole entire time. So as to regular advisor updates for the 1920 school year, career education, Perkins 4 is ending, and we're starting Perkins 5. So the nice thing about that is that basically we're going to derive concentrators from course data. And so this year, starting 1920, you guys don't need to necessarily submit a record of a concentrator because we're going to derive that information from courses that each student took. So there are some new verification reports to review related to that, and we'll kind of get into that in the next slide. The other thing that's changed within Advisor is an improved district administrator sign-off, and there's a link at the end of the presentation that kind of goes through the new process, but I think it'll be simpler for the superintendents, and a great thing is for the data stewards, you guys will be able to go in and look and see what the superintendent is seeing on their screen, look at the reports that they're being asked to review, and you can actually see if the superintendent approved that data or not. And then finally in the CDC, the collection called Report of Suspensions Expulsions, that's no longer needed to be complete. The Gun-Free Schools Act sign-off is now going to be collected in Advisor and the district administrator sign-off. Okay, so here, go ahead and click on that, Melissa. This is the website for the new career and technical ed kind of changes. This is their general website, but it goes into Perkins 5, which is starting in the 2021 school year, but we're kind of starting to use these methods in the 1920 school year. There's a new concentrator definition, so it's any student who took at least 2 courses in a single career cluster during grades 9 through 12 at the intermediate or capstone level, and there's some new kind of definitions of what those are. So you'll need to go to that Perkins website to look a lot of those new programs of study guide and look and see how those courses are derived into which concentrators. Let's see here, there's some new indicators, including a metric for participation in work-based learning courses. And then I do think it's really important to note that your CTE Perkins point of contact at your district level does need to have access to Advisor. So you, as the data steward or your superintendent, is gonna make sure that they need the security levels of special education and free and reduced lunch, in addition to just the generic Advisor validation access, in order to view those reports within Advisor. Okay, so 1819 post-school survey, that is going to be collected in Advisor this year. Now, each of the different SISs probably has a different method of doing that, and we can work on it this afternoon if we need to, but the postgraduate activity data is going to be reported in 1819 Advisor. So when you're looking in Advisor and you want to complete this section of your data, you're going to change your school year to 1819. And then even looking at the reports, the verification reports related to this data within 1819. It's all going to be in 1819. There's 3 verification reports you can look at. Post-school survey list, so it tells you who were the completers that need to be surveyed. Then you've got the activity, which is the ones that have been surveyed and Advisor is seeing their data. And then the kiddos that are missing that, and there could still be kiddos in this report because you may not have information on everybody who graduated as a concentrator. Denise? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. What's new for 2020? 2020 COVID resource. We have Launched Nebraska. So the Launch Nebraska website is a tool. There's tools, actions, opportunities, resources to support the complex planning and preparation needed by Nebraska school systems as they work to start schools and support students. Oops, I love what I was reading. Sorry. As they transition back to school buildings. There we go. Thanks, Melissa. So there's not a lot out here, but this site is going to be updated constantly with additional information to help schools get ready for a new school year. We have some new elements. The crisis event and the displaced student were new for 2021, but due to COVID, of course, they're now in 1920. And then section 504, it was a program in 1920, 2021. It will be a student characteristic. And we are asking, there will be elements required for state reporting, and that's going to be a student address, street number, apartment number, et cetera, et cetera. We're using this data for the special education post-school outcomes. We are also requesting that we have a student email address. That's not required, but we would like to have it. Elements that have been removed. The career education program has been completely removed in 2021 and will be derived from courses. So it's going to be really important that those courses are recorded appropriately. There we go. Food program codes, the not eligible for free or reduced lunch. We don't need those. If we don't get a, sorry?
There was a question about that email address. Is that a school one or a private one is the question.
A student's personal email address. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. And something disappeared. The eligible for community eligibility provision. We know who those CEP schools are, so we will put that in ourselves. We don't need to collect that. Additional elements removed. We added them last year. We're removing them this year or next year. We added them this year. The school hours per week, sped hours per week. We used them to determine the sped percentage. So now what we're going to do instead is the code 10 public school has been removed. And we've added these codes here, 20, 21, 22, for the percent of a student's day that they are inside a regular classroom. So code 20, 80% or more, code 21, 40 to 79%, and code 22, less than 40%. Should make it a little easier for you guys to submit that percentage. Course code changes. These two accounting courses, accounting and advanced accounting, are no longer available. They were available along with these other 4 codes for 1920. For 2021, there will only be the accounting 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have some new staff position assignment codes. For teachers of the visibly impaired, teacher of the deaf or hard of hearing. We have some new collaborating co-teacher facilitator codes and some new para codes, non-instructional para and sped professional, paraprofessional. That doesn't mean the 5160 is gone. The instructional paraprofessional is still available to be used and should be used where appropriate. And then along with those new position assignments are the SPI codes, the special program indicator codes. So early childhood, those are the SPI code 7, school age SPED, SPI code I, and that is for the IDEA grants. So you want to make sure those are reported appropriately to get reimbursed through the grants. And then the special education SPI code S. And then we also have some Title I new staff position assignment codes for Title I migrant, which is the SPI code 9. And that's for school age Title I migrant, and then Title I migrant education early childhood SPI code M. and then just no SPI code with the new position assignments. And final notes, Naomi will talk to you about those.
All right.
Someone
So
asked the question, what is SPI?
Special Program Indicator. These are the codes that within staff reporting help reimburse you for funds. So they're very specific to typical programs. If you don't have any, you would use a 0 or an O if you don't have any specific sort of association you need to make. Most teachers are 01160, and this is all within staff reporting. So if you guys have at any point, at any time, any questions, email us, please. We are there and love to help and answer questions that you have. Just email advisorhelp@nebraskacloud.org, and that automatically creates a ticket. And then the first person at the help desk available to grab that will reach out to you. Now, if you do have a question specific to PowerSchool, specific to JMC or whatever SIS system you're using, including SRS, you may want to contact them first. But if the question's generic in nature, typically we can pretty much help you. These are all resources available to you. The first link takes you to the advisor page within the NDE website. And you'll see there's a calendar tab, there's and that's got your 1920, 2021 calendar due dates. There's a tab for advisor data guidance. And I frequently refer people here because the data elements is there, and also who reports what. That I go to if I have just some nuanced question about a student and I'm not quite sure who is in charge of reporting what data for that kiddo. And then there's course codes and clearing endorsements. That's a big one. 2021 information is in there now if you haven't already started that. And then there's just lots of other tools in here. So we'll frequently refer people there. There's also the advisor Google page, and I did just put a link to this in the chat. Someone was asking where they could get the PowerPoint presentation, and here it's on the calendar page. Scroll all the way to the bottom and you'll see it down there, including the SRS presentations down there. Anything that we really talked through today is available here. We have a new meeting link for the monthly advisor district meeting. This is a great meeting where Max goes through the latest and greatest, everything coming out. I think it's really helpful, so feel free to get that into your calendar and attend the second Wednesday of every month. And then there's the coronavirus webpage, which we've already been to. That's another link to that. And then a link to the NDE bulletin. So many of you know that we've changed how the bulletin works. And this is the webpage that you can go and see everything that's gone out in bulletin form, whether or not you subscribe to it. So some people have subscribed to maybe public only, and that's the only information they receive is things related to public school districts. But if you want to see what a non-public is getting, if you want to see what a Rule 18 is getting, you could go to this page and view everything that's been sent out. All right, and then these are the handouts that I showed you on that Google page. Just another link. Anything blue in this PowerPoint is a link for you. So you can click on it. Go ahead and click on that one. I haven't recorded it yet, but it's a presentation on the new district administrator sign-off process and approval, and I'm actually recording it this afternoon. It was going to be a conference presentation, but now we have it available. If you keep going, the last couple slides are literally a step-by-step guide for your superintendent. So it'll be really great for them to be able to see this, and it'll be a nice resource for all of you. All right, so what's the rest of the day look like? We will have a presentation by SRS at 10:30. We'll go ahead and people will stay on the Zoom Workday and be available for questions if you have any before then. but SRS will present at 10:30, and then we'll have a lunch break from 11 to 12, and then from 12 to 4 is our time to really get into it and work in our systems, look at Advisor, start looking at our errors, any of our reports. We're going to have breakout rooms, so if you are a power school district, we'll put you into a breakout room with other power school districts so that if you're struggling with similar sorts of issues, you can talk through those together. That's one of the reasons that we asked at the beginning of this presentation that you update your name and how it's displayed within the Zoom meeting to have the initials of your vendor before your name. This will help the Zoom managers determine which breakout rooms to put you in. So I think, oh, last but not least, we're going to send a survey shortly after the workday to get your feedback on what you thought, how you felt about the virtual versus the in-person, and just kind of make sure that we're touching on content and giving you information that you're needing. So SRS is going to have a separate Zoom room than this particular one. That way they have a waiting area for districts. And again, this Zoom room will be used from 12 to 4 during the workday portion of the day. The SRS team will present in this Zoom room that you're currently in at 10:30. I think that might be it. Do we have any questions or general business? We can take a break before the SRS portion. Anyone?
I just remind everyone that if you haven't signed in on the Google Doc, to please do so. I've added that link at the bottom of chat again. So I don't think everybody has signed in.
Great. Can you share that in the chat again?
Yep, I did.
Oh, good. Great. Okay. Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you. Anything else? All right. Well, feel free to stay on the Zoom and let us know if you have any questions. We'll be available. And then we'll plan on hearing from Min and Scott from SRS at 10:30. Thanks, everyone.